All right, so so today's theme is, as you've already read, this is like a holiday themed class. So we're doing a couple different traditional holiday dishes. One is the latke, potato latke, and the other is the roasted shrimp, which is more like an Italian holiday specialty. And we're also doing a few other dishes as well that incorporate lots of other festive colors and flavors and seasonal ingredients. So we've been focusing on mindful eating throughout the quarter. So we encourage you, as you're cooking along, to try it. If you make this after the class, please do try the ingredients as you go along, except for the raw shrimp, but everything else is safe to eat. And modify the flavors however you choose. We always provide the recipes, but we encourage you to modify them to fit your preferences so that the food is more enjoyable for you. Making your food enjoyable is one of the most important things about mindful eating. You want to enjoy and be present with what you're eating. So let's see, our learning objectives for the day. The culinary learning objectives are to understand how to make a traditional potato latke and to learn the food safety considerations for shrimp and seafood. Since we don't often use animal products like animal protein in this class, Rahul will be touching on that, and seafood has some different requirements than like beef and chicken do. So Rahul is going to talk about that. And for nutrition, we're going to focus on the importance of a balanced plate for enjoyment and satisfaction of your meal. And we also want to be sure you are familiar with which of these ingredients are seasonal and what they bring to the plate. So I will pass it to Rahul to explain or to identify each of these recipes today so you can follow along, and to talk about some kitchen and food safety and our plan of work for the class.
Hello everyone, I'm Rahul, the executive chef at the Harvard Medical School now. So we're gonna cook today a bunch of things together. So let me tell you, we are cooking traditional potato latke, like how Eliza told you, describe that. Then we're gonna top it up with shrimps that will be seasoned properly, and we'll see as we go through it. So these are the two items. Then the third item is gonna be the sauteed Swiss chard, and we're gonna do two versions of it. Not two versions basically, but two different texture of it. And as we go through it, I will explain that. And then after that, we're doing a beet emulsion. And beet emulsion is something that could be prepared way ahead of time, and it's a very useful, simple recipe. Okay, so we start with that. So safety first and always. We'll be handling hot food and knife, and also we have raw shrimps today. So cross contamination is also an important thing that we have to keep in mind. Have oven mitts, towels available, and have appropriate utensils and equipment available to cook whoever is cooking with us. So now we start with that. So first what we're going to do is we said that we have beets, we have latke, we have Swiss chard, and we have shrimps. So we have 4 items today. So what we need is we need a plan of work. So plan of work is that it says that we start the item that takes the longest to cook. We start it first, and then we finish it off with the item that cooks very, very fast. That will be like sauteing the greens or cooking the shrimps. So the shrimps, we cannot cook it first and wait for it, because A, they will get cold, and the second they got to get hard, rubbery. So that's why the plan of work is very, very important. So before we lose any more time, what we're going to do is we're going to start with doing the beet for the beet emulsion. So beet emulsion is basically a pureed beet which has been seasoned with salt, pepper, of course, a little bit of acid that could be a vinegar, or it could be any of the citrus juice. Then we have a little mustard to give it a little spike of spiciness, and then we finally finish it off with canola or olive oil. So this is a basic emulsion, and it comes out very smooth, bright color, and tastes equally good. So that is our sauce for today, and it is a very quick sauce that could be made. It's basically an emulsion that's like almost like say a little bit loose than a hummus consistency. Okay, so for that, what we have done is we have peeled the red beets that are easily available all over the supermarket, and we have peeled them and cut them into small pieces, because we want to be time sensitive, that we have to be ready within an hour. So we're going to put the beets first. Then after that, we're going to put 2 cups of beets. Then after that, we're going to put water here. we're gonna put it on a high heat, such that we want the beets to get cooked, but not overcooked, because if they overcook, they will lose the color. So we want to still keep the color very, very bright and ready to go. So these are our beets going right now, and we're gonna add a little bit of salt to that. Okay.
Hi there.
So far, it just needs this much of the recipe. This. So this, while these beets are going now, I'm going to move these beets. I'm going to just let it come to a boil so you can see, and then I'm going to move it to the stove on my second stove, so as you can do, and then we will start with the next item. Yes.
So this beet emulsion is really cool. It's, as Rahul said, it's going to be the sauce for the dish, but it not only provides, you know, like the moisture and condensed flavor that sauces bring, but the color of this is beautiful. As you can imagine, from red beets. And we're specifically using red beets because it just complements everything really well. The color complements everything else on this plate really well. So because this is the longest, this takes the longest to cook, we are starting this to boil on high, and we're going to put it off to the side. And we're going to check back on it later. And if yours is, you know, like he said, we cut this small, we cut this in a small dice, because the smaller the pieces, the faster it cooks. So that's always the goal. We want to get things done, you know, make your dinner as easy as possible by making it cook faster. So small cut beets will boil much more quickly. So if you're cooking this and it takes a bit longer for you, it could be that your stovetop is, you know, your stovetop is definitely different than ours. But we are going to end up with the same product, just a matter of having it finish up at the same time.
Okay, so now I'm going to move this to the stove. As you see, it will gradually come to a boil, and as while we are cooking, it will continue cooking on the side, and I'll keep my watch on that. Okay.
Perfect. So beets are one of the seasonal ingredients that we're featuring today, and there are two kinds of beets, or more than two rather, but two common kinds, which are the red beets that we're using tonight and golden beets. The nutrient profile is basically the same, aside from the nutrients that you get from the specific coloring pigment, which is, you know, different depending on the beet, but they are super rich in fiber, like a good earthy flavor. So beets are a fun thing to use in the winter months and year round.
So now we're gonna use Swiss chard, as we said. So Swiss chard is, as you see, you find them all over in the supermarket. They are beautiful, and they are the best representing the winter greens, and they are very nutritious as well. And the taste is very peculiar. It does not taste like spinach. It does not taste like kale. It has got its own flavor to it. And what we do is, like, we see all this beautiful stem, and being sustainable, we try to find a use of it. And the best way to use it is to pickle them. But you have to remember one thing about the texture of these stems is they are stringy. So like if you cut into big pieces, they will be like when you are eating it, you will feel it like stringy. So what we do, we cut it on the bias with the knife, like sharp knife, to make it look like this. So basically they look like a chip. So it's been cut on the bias, and there's all the different colors, the yellow, the orange, and the very bright red one. Okay. So now what we do is, like, we're going to pickle this. So now what do we do? A quick pickle, because pickling would take longer time. So for a quick pickle, what we do, we do half and half quantity of vinegar, and definitely it has to be a vinegar, because you cannot pickle with a fruit juice. And if you're pickling with a fruit juice, you cannot heat it up, but we want to heat it up to speed up the process. And also the sugar and then the vinegar, they start working on the vegetable and turn the color very, very different. So what do we have here is, we have some vinegar right here. We're going to pour the vinegar, already boiling, and the pan is pretty hot.
Is your pan is on high right now?
Yeah, my pan is on high. I just wanted to see that. And then I put equal amount of water in there, here, and then this will go up. Then I just add salt, pepper, and there are many different recipes to do different kind of pickles, but this is the basic, because you need to have some kind of sweetener to it to balance the sourness of the vinegar, and of course cut it down halfway with water. Okay, then salt, and then little bit of pepper in there. And this is your pickling liquid ready to go. So once it come to boil, and you will see how quickly it start bubbling and it's ready to go. And we just put our chard stems in there, and you will see it changing color very quickly. So these are the pickled chard stems, and then once they stick into it, you just really come to a just little small boil, and then like a roll boil, and you put it aside. And like say within the time we will be ready to plate, these pickles will be ready. So these are pickled chards. So it adds the little sourness to it, and they taste really good. But the other thing we have to remember that we don't boil it in that because we don't want to overcook this. It still has to be crisp and nice. So you see the color is already start brightening up. As you can see, the brighter color. So now this is perfect right now, and I'm going to take this and put it away on my counter at the back, and then we'll start with the next one. Next slide.
And pickling something, doing a quick pickle is such a fun way to add a different flavor that you're not getting elsewhere in the dish and a different texture. So when we're talking about having a varied meal that's interesting and satisfying, this is a really great way to do it. That becomes, you having like a pickled garnish on top. It just brings something totally different to the meal that wouldn't otherwise be there. So another layer of satisfaction to that.
Now what we're doing is we're going to marinate the shrimp. So what recipe we want to use is we trying to use the Italian shrimp recipe here. So we have shrimps that are already shelled, but the tail is attached, and I like to use the one with the tail attached for the reason that it prevents the tail from getting too dry when you cook it, and still the flesh that is inside the tail shell, that is the last shell here, it is still edible in there. Otherwise you're going to have to break the whole thing away and throw it off because it's not edible and too hard. But then this shell lets it stay moist inside and not to get rubbery. So what we're going to do, we have chosen to use oregano, chopped oregano, thyme, rosemary, a little bit of garlic, and I'm going to put it aside because this garlic I'm going to use it, and salt, pepper, and then lemon zest. Lemon zest is very refreshing, and it goes very well with seafood definitely, and of course it does go well with the poultry and like also with the duck and stuff, all different kind of things. But then it goes really well with seafood of any kind. So now another thing that we want to do when we're going to present this plate, we want the shrimps to stand. So we're going to butterfly them. So these shrimps are already deveined. The vein is taken out, but the shell is attached. So we're going to hold it like this and be very careful with a knife, and we cut it right here. So they stand up like this, and we're going to marinate them. And also one more important thing what you have to see that this is raw seafood is can cross-contaminate the rest of the food that you are making. So because see also we have egg in the recipe today. So we have to be very careful with having them on temperature when we are storing them for cooking, while cooking, and also during also when we are just cleaning up the area that there is no cross contamination, or your gloves are changed and hands are washed, and knife is completely, you won't use that knife for anything else, and then is the safety first and last and always. So what we're going to do is one of these bowls here, and then I'm going to put the shrimps here, and then a little bit of oil. And now why oil? Because oil helps for the herbs to kind of adhere to the shrimp. Just a thin layer, because if it is too much, it will wash off all the herbs over it. Just a little bit of oil, and that's all you need. Then we put our rosemary, oregano, thyme, zest here, and mix it all really well. And then after that, we have our salt and pepper, which I'm not going to touch because I am just using a spoon for that right here. Garlic. here's our shrimps marinating, and we just marinate and let it sit for a little bit because we don't want to cook the shrimps right away. We will cook them as we need them. So we know how much time it will take. It doesn't take more than 4 minutes to 5 minutes in the oven for the shrimps to finish because they are such a small protein and they cook very, very quick. And then, so we'll cook it in a time, like in timely way when our latkes is almost getting ready. Let me try this one and check my beets.
So as Rahul said, the shrimp cooks really quickly, which is great. So we're letting that marinade sit. But so what we've added to the shrimp, the herbs and the citrus. These are, not just for flavor, but of course they also provide nutrition. And citrus is is in season in the colder months. So by doing orange zest or lemon zest, or you can even add some like lemon juice or orange juice to this if you'd like, that would give you that delicious citrus flavor, which, as Rahul mentioned in the beginning, complements seafood very well. The citrus, the acidity and the flavor of citrus helps to kind of lessen like the fishiness that you might. Yeah, that looks great. Oh, so also now you can see, so how Rahul sliced, he butterflied the shrimp. So the shrimp is able to stand up. He sort of, where the shrimp was cut, he spread it out and stood it up that way. So it's a nice culinary trick for like a fancy display of your shrimp.
I want to change my gloves, put this aside.
Yep. So yeah, if you're doing this at home right now, be sure to wash your hands very well. And be also careful with your cutting board, your knife. You don't want to then, have anything that's ready to eat. You don't want to have any of that touch your, the area where the raw shrimp touched. So if you have a different cutting board, you might want to switch it out, or you can, put another one on top or something like that.
Okay, so now,
excuse me.
Yes.
Could you please show me how to cut the shrimp?
okay, yeah, I'll do that right now. One more time. See, look.
Thank
So
you
this
so
is-
much.
See, we get the shrimp like this, right? Like this, it is cut like this, right? Yeah, so what we do is we take the knife and then we take the knife and then we cut it here, okay? So from the thicker side, we cut here, look, here, and we don't go all the way, right? Just in this much, okay? And then after that, once we take that, then let me show you. Once it is all the way cut here, we just, so now this is the shrimp. Now we just go and fold it up like this. Here is your shrimp.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I understand now.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. You're welcome.
Thank you so
Yeah, of course. Now Rahul's gonna wash his hands, but yeah, I mean, it's not necessary to do that with the shrimp. It just adds a little, like I said, like it makes it like look a little fancier. And if you're making this meal for some guests, if you're trying to impress your guests, it's like a little fancy trick. Make it look nice. I suppose it could also make the shrimp cook a little faster if the thick part is cut in half, but I don't think that's really the point. The point is just that it's nice. It's nice.
All the way, change everything here. And
So we're moving right along with our recipes here. We've already got the beets are boiling.
yeah,
The
chard is pickled.
the chard. Oh, that reminds me, I wanted to talk about the chard stems. So chard, the Swiss chard, this is specifically rainbow chard. If you just get Swiss chard, the stems are just kind of like white or like light green, but rainbow chard is the one that has all the colors in it. And the leaves are, I would say the leaves are more similar to spinach than other leafy greens in that they are very delicate. When you you'll see later when we put them in the pan, they saute, they're done in a minute. It's super fast. They cook very quickly. They're very sensitive to like acid also. So you wouldn't really want to put Swiss chard in a salad. That wouldn't really make sense. But the texture of the stem is very different. The stem is kind of like celery. it's very fibrous and watery like celery is. So that's why it's totally edible. Another thing you could do is instead of removing the leaf from the stem, if you have, you know, the leaf with the stem all the way down, you can cut across and just include the stem when you're sauteing Swiss chard. You don't have to remove it from the stem, but we just wanted to give that fun pickle texture and flavor. So, all right, I'm gonna switch back to Rahul. It looks like the beets are good.
It's ready.
Cooked, okay.
And we're gonna just let them breathe a little bit. So like I mean, like let the steam go away. So I'm gonna go back into the bowl where they were.
That's going to be pretty hot, so maybe don't try that at home. Rahul's hands are very calloused from being burned.
So this is our beet ready here.
So he's trying to let the beets cool just a bit before putting them in the blender, because if you have a lot of steam in the blender, that can kind of blow up. So always important to be careful with that.
So here are our beets now. They're cooked and then lightly steaming. Now we're gonna go into our blender and we make the emulsion. So emulsion is a simple thing, like we can make an emulsion with carrot, we can make emulsion with many different things. But the main thing with emulsion is just like a dressing. How do you disperse oil in a different kind of acidic liquid or a flavored liquid, so such that it gets a thickness. So as you know, that the oil when it disperses, it's in a very small globules that like it's not separated and it forms a emulsion. So basically a salad dressing is an emulsion. So is we're going to make an emulsion, but this time we're using beets as the base of it, and then the beet has its own aroma, own flavor. It goes so well with a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of mustard, and that's what we are capitalizing on. And because also beets being one of the vegetables which are readily available in winter, and they've been harvested and stored to be utilized for a couple of months. So that's a very versatile vegetable that we can find. So here is my blender. As you can see, I'm going to go with my beets in there. It's up to enough now. Okay. After that, I'm going to add mustard to that. And this is my Dijon mustard.
So the beets go in the blender, the Dijon mustard, it's a bit hard to see at this angle, but
yeah, and then is the vinegar. A bit of vinegar in there. And a hint of sugar. Then salt and pepper. Okay. So the only ingredient that is not in here right now is the oil, and we're gonna get to the oil once we have a puree started. Okay. Now we're gonna start blending this.
so we're using red wine vinegar in there because the color is it's gonna match the beet color. So, you know, we want to encourage that very bright red because it's so pretty. So this is just being blended up. And again, be careful with the hot beets. If there's a lot of steam in there, make sure you're holding your lid on tightly so the lid doesn't blow off.
So I'm going to show you now how easy is this one, because the puree is ready. Okay. And this is the base. So it has got all the seasoning and everything in there. So as you may see,
Yeah.
So that is the puree, and I can also pick it up, spoon it brightens up. See, the color brightens up very much. Now in this, we're going to go at a slow speed, very low speed, and we're going to emulsify oil in there. And this is our canola oil. Low speed, variable, very slow. You see.
So if you can have your blender running while you're putting the oil in there, that helps to make like a good emulsification. It helps to prevent the oil and the vinegar from separating.
And it does not have to be very vigorous. It has to be like slow speed. Otherwise, it also, if it is very vigorous, it creates heat, and the heat will does not help the emulsion to stay together. And this is ready. Now I'm going to show you once I put the photo back.
Yeah, the flavor of this emulsification is so great. It's
So this is the consistency.
acidic.
It's a sauce right here.
Yeah.
It's in no time you have a very flavorful sauce. And you can try the same recipe with even with herbs. You blanch them and you blend them. And you can also definitely try with carrots and ginger. Carrot and ginger makes a very nice emulsion together. And it's a very well liked restaurant style emulsion. So now this emulsion is done. We're going to put it aside for plate up, and we're going to get back to what we're doing next. Our next item is we're going to make the latkes. And while the latke is cooking, so if we talk about the plan of work, while the latkes are cooking, we're going to saute the Swiss chard and also cook the shrimps. Okay. So we bring our stove back.
So yeah, he's just going to gather what he needs for the latkes, but these are, they're so simple. The latkes, they're so simple to make, but so delicious, and they can be modified in lots of different ways. But what we're doing today is a pretty traditional version of it. This also has egg in it, but you can, and egg and flour, but you can make this gluten-free if you choose, you know, wheat-free, you can make it vegan. There are different versions to it, but we are sticking to a more traditional type latke. And it's pretty cool how easy this is, and it makes such a filling, satisfying product. So,
okay, so for the latkes, what we do is basic items for latke are potatoes, onions, and to bind it together, we use egg, flour, and just to leaven it a little bit up, we use a pinch of baking powder in that, and of course salt and pepper. And as Eliza said, there could be many other versions. People put chopped spinach in there, grated beet, so colorful, the red latkes, and so on. There are like a lot of possibilities of that. So for that, traditionally a box cut grater is being used for this. But this also could be done if you don't have a box grater at home. There could be another way to get around it is cut the potatoes into small pieces and then blend it in the blender and then squeeze the juice out of it and then proceed from there. So it will almost get there, but the best one comes out from the box grater because it makes the thread, it makes the flat threads of it, like it's like a pasta fettuccine or something like that size. So we're going to start with grating our onion. So we go here and we grate our onion. Be very careful. This is a sharp edge on this grater. And for me, like I do it every day or every other day. So it's easy. But then if you are not used to it, you will get a nick in the finger. So it's very good. So we have our onion.
I imagined that you jinxed yourself by saying that. I just like imagined that and played it out in my head. But no. Chef Rahul does not cut himself. So like grating the onion is something that you wouldn't typically see done. Like, I mean, I guess you don't usually grate an onion. You usually just like chop it up. This is easy to do because it just keeps it like a consistent size and shape and texture with the potato.
And then I have the potato now, and it just washed. It's a regular potato, Idaho potato.
And we can leave it on too for a little extra texture. What did you say, Rahul?
Traditionally, the potato is not peeled in this, okay? But if you choose, you may peel it.
Yeah, it takes a little muscle to get it all grated, but
I think we have enough grated up here to make 3 latkes. And It might take a little longer if you make it for 4 or 5 portions. So this is how it looks like right now. So this is our potato and onion mix right now. Okay, and then you may get a new potato or a very like recently dug potato that maybe have a higher water content. And once you will see this, if you see excess water, you can just squeeze it, like as I'm doing right now. Right here. So if it is a new potato, okay, because that may need the water to be discarded because that will be the latke too soft. And then once that is out, we are here. This is our grated potato and onions right now. Okay. Then we add an egg to that. And then we do salt, pepper, and flour. Okay. Now this could be replaced with gluten-free flour, cornstarch, or how you may like. So we got 3 tablespoons of flour here. And a baking powder. And that's it. That's the latke here. We mix it.
And yeah, you can make this in big batches if you want to. We're just making a small batch just for the demo, but you can make this in a pretty big batch.
Yeah, and they store well too. They don't get hard or anything. You can make it like an hour or 2 or 3 before you consume it. And so I'm gonna put this aside for a minute, and then I'm gonna start with my pan where we're gonna form the latkes.
So you definitely want to try to use a good non-stick pan for the latkes. We're gonna put oil in the pan also, but it's gonna make it easier for you if you also use a non-stick pan. Also, since we use baking powder, I'm gonna throw this fun fact out there. You may already know this, but baking powder versus baking soda. Baking powder already has cream of tartar in it, which is it's an acid that helps to, the acid is like required for it to have a leavening effect. That's the whole reason that we
activated, yeah.
Baking powder, yeah. So baking soda needs acid to be added. So if we were to use baking soda in this, it would not be activated unless we added like lemon juice or vinegar, which would then be weird for a latke. So baking powder is what you want to use if you're not adding buttermilk or some kind of acidic liquid.
Okay, so now we're just gonna start with, so as I said, we can put a spray or we can do oil. Traditionally, it is done with oil and very little light coating of oil.
And the pan's on high again?
High heat right now until I see it like going super high, like, because this is induction, it is different than a gas stove or electric stove you may have at home. This is a portable stove, so it just takes a little longer to get it started. Okay?
Yeah, when you're making these, depending on your stove, depending on your pan, it might, the amount of time per side for the latke might vary. So just keep an eye on it. And you'll see how long it takes with, with this, it does not take very long at all, like maybe 4 minutes per side.
So we do about like a quarter cup of mixture.
Oh yes, right. We're going to use a 1/4 cup serving. So if you have a 1/4 cup measuring cup, you can use that as
That's a good size. That is a decent size.
Right. But you can also do smaller or bigger. We're just saying.
You can do any size. You can make it like a silver dollar size, or you can have it like any bigger size, and even big as your breakfast pancake. This will be made to that size too.
Makes it a little bit trickier to flip it if it's that big, but yeah, as long as it's an even thickness all the way across, then it'll cook evenly.
One little smaller one and regular size. And we're not going to force it to cook, because the thing is, the heat has to climb, then you have to remember that onion is not a problem, but potato is still raw. Okay, so the potato need to cook. So when it builds the steam inside, it cooks itself, and we just don't force it, and we just let it cook like this. I'm gonna change my gloves because we handled eggs just now, and gloves. And while this is cooking, so we will take a peek at it, like how the color is coming. It's not too fast or too slow. And once we have done that, we will go with our next step. What do we have to do?
So yeah, what we have left is to put the shrimp in the oven, which, as Rahul mentioned, it only takes about 5 minutes for the shrimp to cook. And we have to saute the Swiss chard, which, as I mentioned before, takes 1 minute. So we're almost there, almost to the end. So even though we had 5 separate recipes for this, the Swiss chard was 2 of the recipes. We had 5 separate recipes for this meal, but with, you know, planning and doing things in the right order and prepping your ingredients ahead of time, that is very important. That makes your job way easier. We're able to get this all done in under an hour.
So now you see nice color, very appetizing color. And now I have dropped the heat to medium. So now I want the heat to reach from bottom and finish cooking, because this is going to be the top side. And top side, we have achieved the color already. Okay. So we're very close. Now, if we say this is going to take another like about 3 to 4 minutes. And this is the time when we're going to go and cook our shrimp, such that our shrimp is ready. And the last item to do is sauteing the chard with a little bit of garlic, salt and pepper. And that will be the last one item that will go on top. So again, as we said, the plan of work. So we are not cooking the greens, that they will go, they only get, the later you use, they are not as fresh. So we'll have freshly sauteed greens. Okay. At the same time, which thing has to sit longer is our pickled shrimp, which are already ready. We did it in the first. And then what was the more technical stuff in there to take longer to make was the beet emulsion. So we diced the beet, we cooked it after we blend it, and that is kept already on the side. So this is all ready to go. That's it right now. Okay.
So thinking about this whole meal, this meal as a whole, we've got these latkes, which are starchy and kind of like fluffy and creamy, bready a little bit, and a more like a little bit more of a bland flavor, which is good because of all the other flavors that we have in the rest of the dish. You don't want it to be too overpowering. So we've got the starchy latkes, we've got the beet emulsion, and you'll see the way Rahul plates it all up. It looks beautiful. But the beet emulsion will be spread underneath everything else, and that brings a pop of color. It brings acidity and sweetness. Then we're going to have the shrimp, which is like a savory flavor with a little bit of citrus and fresh herbs, and the sauteed greens with the pickled stems. So greens are a little bit like an earthy flavor, and the stems are going to be really bright and acidic and fresh. So we have such a great combination of textures and colors and flavors and nutrients in this dish. And that's the goal. You want to have a varied plate because you want to fully enjoy what you eat. And if there are, you know, if your plate is kind of bland, if it bland flavor, bland color, you know, it's just not as enjoyable. As they say, we do eat with our eyes. They are not wrong. We definitely do eat with our eyes. So yeah, those latkes look awesome on the other side. That's perfect.
Red color, nice color.
Oh, those look great. Beautiful.
So they are just like, and now we know that is a little bit thick. So we just let the heat to travel from both sides, such that is not overcooked or undercooked, and we're good to go with that. Next item.
So Rahul, tell us about the shrimp, about how long it has to cook, about how what the temperature needs to be, the internal temperature.
Well, as per the guidelines, the temperature need to be like above 140 and below 155. But again, the same thing is like we look at the shrimp is such a small piece of food, so we look at like how fast and high heat it will cook, because it has to like once it get heated up, it continues cooking. So you have to you have to also keep in mind the carryover. Carryover is very, very, very important in any of these dishes, right? So now I'm gonna put these latkes. They are really nice color. Good, right here. And I'm gonna pull them aside and then keep them ready for plate up. And then we're gonna do our Swiss chard. So since we are ready with that, we're gonna go to
Is the shrimp in the oven already?
yes, shrimp I just put it
Okay.
down.
So Shogo and family, if you haven't put your shrimp in the oven, then now is the time. And it'll just be 5 minutes.
A little bit of garlic. Garlic makes everything good.
Hold on, before we start, Shogo, how's everything going? Do we need to slow down or anything you need?
Yeah, we're still making latte, so
Okay, I'll wait.
it would be better to slow down for us. Thank you.
Okay. So are you scraping out the garlic roll? Okay, we'll wait a little bit. I know you guys are cooking for a lot more people than we are, probably making the full 4 servings. For those of you that maybe don't know this or have not done this yet, we do provide like a package of prepared ingredients for all of our meals that we cover in these classes. And if you are on campus or if you're able to just come by and do outside or something, we can bring you can order the ingredients in advance and you can pick them up from us. So we prep the ingredients for you. We cut up the beets, we measure the right amount that you need. We put them in containers and label everything for you. So Shogo and his family have been doing this since the beginning. They are our most loyal students in this class and have purchased the prepped ingredients every time. So we very much appreciate that. And I'm sure they can attest to how much easier it is when the food is already prepped for you. So yes, please, whenever I send out the invites to you all, I always include a link to our Cater Tracks website where you can order the ingredients in advance. If it's convenient for you to come to campus to pick it up, or if you happen to be here, then we are more than willing to provide those ingredients to you to make everything easier. So, okay, I think, Rahul, are you prepping getting the plate ready?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to plate up because I have to just saute the shrimps.
Saute.
Saute the chard. Sorry, shrimps are ready.
Yeah, so the chard is, like I've said, the chard cooks super fast.
Super fast.
What we are gonna do with the chard is mix in the pickled stems,
Yep.
but if you want, you can use the pickled stems as like a garnish for the whole meal. You don't have to mix it in. But yeah, look at the color of that.
And
Beautiful.
then you put on a plate, you will see the color right next to.
Yeah. So like I said, we use the red wine vinegar both in the beet emulsion and in the pickled chard stems because we want the bright color. We want to encourage that bright color. You can use, rice wine vinegar or white wine vinegar, but it's not as pretty. We like that bright color. So Rahul, I think for the sake of time in class, I think we should get going with the chard.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you guys aren't too far behind. I'm sorry.
Getting back.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. Let it go. So these are the stems after pickling them.
Wow.
They are pretty bright and very nice color.
Mhm.
So we leave it here.
And they're still nice and crunchy too.
Yes.
Yeah, they're great.
Go with oil, garlic,
Canola oil specifically and garlic are in the pan now. And this is on high again, I'm guessing. Okay.
Here you can hear the char.
So it's so cool cooking leafy greens, like sauteing leafy greens, because the color changes so dramatically. Like even just in the 10 seconds since we put this in the pan, it's so much brighter. It's so cool. So we're adding some salt and pepper to taste. You can choose to add whatever, however much you prefer. But do keep in mind that these cook very fast, as we keep saying. So if you walk away from it, then you might come back and they'll be mush. So definitely stand right there and just keep stirring it around. And yeah, now the color is getting a little bit deeper as they're getting cooked all the way through. Yeah, so perfect. So fast.
So that's done, and now we're gonna plate. So for plating,
All right, so the shrimp is out of the oven as well.
yes. Okay.
Perfect.
So we have this beautiful emulsion. You see how it looks in a bowl now. And then if you make from these beets, it could, like, if you invite people to eat at your house or you cook for somebody, it will be like a wow factor as how nice it is. Like, so now we go here, then we do a drop, and then we pull it after that like this. How to do it in the restaurant, and then we're gonna place our latkes. Right here, and then we get our shrimps. Shrimps are from so well, as you can see. They're right here, and you can assemble it the way you like. But I prefer, like, since we have done the green, we do a little nest of green on top. Here. And then we do some of the pickled stems, so they are colorful. They add color to the dish, and then we top them up with our shrimps. Start here with one.
Because the shrimp was butterflied and standing up that way, now it's still that way after it's cooked, so it's easy to plate it up with a nice display.
Kind of your elegant display right here, and we put it to the sort of dish right here,
Beautiful.
and here it
Can
is.
we see, because it's all piled up, I'm gonna add your other, I wanna add pin. Can you hold it up so we can see it like sideways? Like I wanna yeah, look at all those layers. That's gorgeous. That's beautiful. Hold on, I'm removing this so it's nice and close. Wow, that's so beautiful.
That's your entire meal right here.
Yeah, and yeah, depending on the, what portions you prefer, you might want to add more latkes, you might want more greens, however you like it. Uh-oh, looks like the camera went off in the overhead view somehow. That's okay. Yeah, this meal is every color, every texture, every flavor. It's all together. So it adds, it creates such a satisfying meal. You end up, feeling mentally satisfied with the beautiful presentation and all of the different types of flavors and textures that you have. And you're physically satisfied because of the fiber, the protein, the heart healthy fats, everything, all the important nutrients that are in this dish. It all just comes together so well.
It's the dish. Enjoy this.
So anyone have any questions or any feedback for us? And Shogo, how are you guys doing over there?
We are still being delayed, but we really enjoyed cooking. And then thank you very much for your so many kinds of tips and how to cook. It looks so tasty.
It is great.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. The overhead camera went off. I don't know why.
Okay, all right. So
yeah,
this is pretty. It's a very nice plate.
Yeah. You can display it however you want, but it's always, I feel like it's a chef thing. Chefs like to pile it all up high. So that's what Rahul did here. It gives like a wow factor. If you were to bring out this dish to your guests at your holiday, gathering, it's just very impressive. So yeah, I mean, we've got a few minutes left if anybody has any questions, or if you want to let us know what you are planning on making or what you have already made for holiday gatherings, we would love to hear it. We've got, oh, Natasha, you're in.
Yeah, I've made a cheesy shrimp pasta before, which is actually healthier than it sounds, and it was a big hit. So hopefully, I'm gonna incorporate this ambitious recipe too.
That's great. I mean, yeah, because there are multiple recipes within this meal. You know, you could just take our version of the shrimp or something and add it to yours. But yeah, that sounds great. So we also want to take this time to give a very, very heartfelt thanks to all of you that have attended our class throughout the year. And we hope to see you again many, many times in the future. But we love doing this, and we do it every month, and we will continue to do it every month. We're gonna have some fun new classes coming in 2022. As always, if you have any ideas for us, please let us know. But yeah, we are so grateful for all of you, and we love doing this. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody, and we'll see you next year after our winter break.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.